Daniel never believed in family ties. His mother never spoke of relatives, and his father had vanished long before he could remember. That's why the letter felt wrong. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting elegant but uneven, as if scratched by an unsteady hand. It came in a black envelope, sealed with wax. Inside, just a few sentences. To Daniel Hale, you are invited to spend the weekend at the Hale Estate, Black Hollow Road. It is time you learn the truth. No sender. No address except for Black Hollow Road. He wanted to throw it away, but the name, Hale, was his mother's maiden name, a name she had forbidden him to ask about. Something in his chest told him that if he ignored this letter, it would come back for him. The road to the estate was endless, twisting narrow, surrounded by trees so tall they swallowed the headlights. His GPS had lost signal miles ago. Only the cracked map enclosed with the letter guided him forward. By the time Daniel found the mansion, the night sky was a heavy black curtain. The house rose out of the woods like a shadow given form. Its windows reflected the beams of his car, glowing like watchful eyes. He killed the engine. The silence pressed in. No birds, no wind, just the sound of his heart thudding as he climbed the steps toward the enormous door. The door opened before he could knock. A frail woman stood in the glow of a flickering lantern. Her skin was pale, stretched thin over her bones. Her eyes seemed too wide, too tired. "Daniel," she whispered, as though she had been waiting. She introduced herself as Margaret, the caretaker. Her voice shook with every word. He should not have arrived after dark. Before he could ask what she meant, she pulled him inside and slid 3 heavy bolts across the door. Metal clanged against metal. "You must never leave this house at night," she said, almost trembling. "Do you understand?" Daniel only nodded, but already a pit had opened in his stomach. The hallway stretched long, lined with portraits in gilded frames. Stern men with severe expressions. Women in black dresses, their faces pale and lifeless. Children frozen in silence, their eyes dull as glass. Every painting seemed to follow him as he walked. One frame stopped him cold. The face had been slashed apart with violent strokes, leaving only torn canvas and a black void where the eyes should have been. He leaned closer, heart racing. A faint smell lingered, old smoke and ash, as if the portrait had been burned before someone tried to save it. Margaret's voice snapped from behind. "Don't linger there. Some memories are better forgotten." His guest room was suffocating. The wallpaper curled away in damp strips, and the air smelled of mildew and dust. Daniel lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The silence pressed against his ears. Then faintly he heard it. Whispers, soft, almost inaudible, as if someone spoke through the walls. At first he thought it was just the wind, but then his name, clear, whispered, drawn out like a breath. "Daniel?" The sound crawled across his skin. He pulled the blanket over his face, heart pounding. But the whispers didn't stop. They only grew closer, as though something was right above him, leaning down from the ceiling, speaking into his ear. The next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through stained curtains. Daniel wandered the halls, trying to shake off the nightmare. At the far end of the corridor, he found a door unlike the others. Heavy oak, iron hinges, and 7 separate locks running down its length. Each lock sealed tight, some rusted with age. The air around the door felt different, colder. As he reached for the handle, Margaret's voice cut sharply through the silence. "Never open it." Her tone was harsh, but her eyes betrayed fear. She forced a smile and changed the subject quickly. But Daniel had already seen the truth. Whatever was behind that door, she was terrified of it. That evening, Daniel explored the library. Dust coated every book, but one stood out. A leather-bound diary with a cracked spine, resting open as if waiting. It belonged to his great-grandfather. Most entries were rambling, but the last one chilled him. The child must never be freed. It carries the curse of the hollow. It knows our names. It remembers the pact. The ink was smeared with reddish stains. Dried blood, perhaps. Daniel slammed the book shut, his hands shaking. The house creaked. Somewhere upstairs, a door slowly opened, though no one was there. That night, Daniel woke to a scratching sound, like fingernails dragging across wood. From the corner of the room, something moved. At first, it looked like a shadow cast by the furniture. But then it shifted, stretching, bending, standing tall. A figure, twisted. Its arms were too long. Its head tilted unnaturally. It didn't move toward him. It didn't need to. The pressure in the air told him it was alive. Daniel blinked. In an instant, the figure was gone, but the floorboards groaned, as though invisible footsteps still circled the bed. By morning, Daniel couldn't hold back. He confronted Margaret. Her hands shook as she poured tea, spilling half of it onto the table. "You want the truth?" she whispered. Her eyes glistened with tears. "Your family made a pact generations ago. To protect themselves, they offered one child from every bloodline. That child is locked away behind the hollow door. That child is not human anymore." Her voice cracked. "And you, Daniel, you are the chosen one this generation." Daniel's panic drove him to find his phone. For the first time since arriving, there was a signal. Weak but real. He dialed his mother. She answered instantly. Relief flooded him until she spoke. Her voice was wrong, twisted, like 100 voices layered on top of each other, speaking in unison. "Don't trust Margaret," the voices said. "She belongs to the house." The line went dead. Daniel dropped the phone, his hands ice cold. That night, Daniel was pulled from sleep by a metallic click. The sound of locks turning, one by one. The 7 locks on the hollow door were unlatching by themselves. His body froze, heavy and unresponsive, as though the air itself pinned him down. The final lock snapped open. The door groaned, swinging wide. Darkness spilled out like smoke. From the doorway stepped a figure no taller than a child, barefoot, pale as bone, its eyes black, bottomless voids. It smiled at him. "Finally," it whispered, its voice both young and ancient. "I am free." The temperature plummeted. Frost crawled across the floorboards. The portraits on the walls shivered in their frames, and the child's smile widened. The child's shadow spread unnaturally across the floor, stretching until it touched every wall. The portraits began to bleed. Faces screamed silently, mouths opening where pain should have been. The air grew thick with voices, hundreds, thousands crying, chanting, begging. Margaret burst into the room, clutching a knife. "It must be sacrificed," she cried, "or it will consume us all." She lunged toward Daniel, but before the blade touched him, the shadow surged upward, swallowing her whole. Her scream cut off instantly. The child leaned close, its cold breath on Daniel's ear. "You will stay here," it whispered. "Forever." just as they all did. Pain shot through Daniel's body. His veins burned, his vision dimmed, and he collapsed. When he opened his eyes again, he wasn't in his bed. He was in the hallway, in a frame, looking out from the slashed portrait, his own painted eyes staring endlessly into the dark. Days later, somewhere far away, a letter arrived in another mailbox, another black envelope, another wax seal, another unsuspecting relative tearing it open. Inside, the same words, "It is time you learned the truth." And the cycle began again.